Published 0:58 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 28th of April 2018. Updated 1:04 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 28th of April 2018. The alleged chemical attack in the Syrian town of Douma has prompted sharply differing responses from Turkey and Russia. The foreign ministers of Russia, Iran and Turkey were set to hold talks on Syria Saturday in the wake of an alleged chemical attack that has exposed differences between the three powers. The three nations have been attempting to find a political solution to the Syrian conflict at talks that started last year in Astana, Kazakhstan, in competition with the US and UN-backed Geneva Initiative. The latest talks in Moscow between two of Assad's key supporters, Moscow and Tehran, and rebel backer Ankara come as the alleged chemical attack in the Syrian town of Douma on April 7 has prompted sharply differing responses from Turkey and Russia. "I curse those who carried out this massacre," President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said, adding that he welcomed Western airstrikes in retaliation as appropriate. Meanwhile, Russia says the attack was staged to discredit its ally President Bashar al-Assad, and this week brought a group of Syrians to the global chemical arms watchdog to back its claims. French President Emmanuel Macron this month suggested the airstrikes had driven a wedge between Ankara and Moscow as they have been building increasingly close ties. This prompted an angry denial from Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, who said the country's relations are not so weak that the French president can break them. Alexander Shumalin, a Middle East expert at the Institute for U.S. and Canadian Studies in Moscow, however, said Douma fallout had caused a crack in the alliance of three countries. He added, "If the trio falls apart entirely, the ensuing events could be really bad." Turkey has a completely different attitude to resolving the conflict and Assad's fate, he said. While Iran is seeking to destabilize the region to hurt Israel and Russia wants to stabilize and leave. Alexei Malashenko, a specialist in the Syria conflict, was skeptical the meeting would achieve much beyond a show of unity, saying the trio have a very shaky alliance. Their positions on the suspected chemical attack are irreconcilable, he said. Turkey has an absolutely honest position. It is against Bashar al-Assad, and here there's no way they can reach an agreement. Nevertheless, the limited nature of US-led strikes suggests the peak of tensions has passed, he said. Talks on all aspects, the Turkish Foreign Ministry said Saturday's meeting will focus on all aspects of cooperation and elaborate on the steps that could be taken from now on, while the Russian Foreign Ministry said talks would focus on the humanitarian situation. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will also hold bilateral talks, including on the escalating situation around the Iran nuclear deal, spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said. The most recent Syria talks attended by the foreign ministers in Astana were held on March 16. The next are set for May 14. EU diplomatic chief Federica Mogherini on Tuesday urged the three powers to do more, saying they have not only a responsibility but also an interest in making the ceasefire work. 8 rounds of talks under United Nations auspices in Geneva have made little headway, with Assad's government taking little interest. Both Tehran and Moscow have deployed military forces to Syria to back up Assad in his now 7-year-old war against anti-government rebels. Ankara has called for Assad's removal throughout the war, but has worked increasingly closely with Moscow and Tehran in recent months in an attempt to find a solution to the conflict. In January, Russia held a showpiece conference in the Black Sea resort of Sochi with largely pro-regime delegates, which saw boycotts by rebels and made little progress. Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted a summit on Syria with the Iranian and Turkish presidents in November. They then met again in Ankara this month. Berzam, OC, Harkaf. Sorry, we are not currently accepting comments on this article.